Scene script. Have you ever wondered how far a nation would go in the pursuit of power and control? Today we delve into the recent developments of the Russia-Ukraine war. In the cold depths of winter, tensions have escalated to a chilling new high. Russia, in an alarming act of aggression, fired a barrage of cruise missiles at targets in Ukraine. This air raid was not a brief flash of violence, but a drawn-out ordeal that lasted almost 2 relentless hours. The missiles launched from the Engels city area in Russia streaked across the sky, their trajectory aimed at Ukraine's beating heart, Kiev. However, the city's air defenses were not caught unawares. They sprung to life, intercepting and destroying 14 of the 19 missiles headed their way. The skies over Kyiv and Dnipropetrovsk were lit up with the fiery remnants of these intercepted threats, yet not all missiles were stopped in their tracks. Some homes were damaged by falling debris, silent testimonies to the violence that had taken place overhead. Tragically, this attack was not devoid of human cost. In Pavlograd and the Kharkiv region, one person in each location was killed and several others were injured. The shocking reality is that this was the first attack in over 2 months, a harsh reminder of the ever-present threat of conflict. Western intelligence warns that this may not be the last of such attacks. They caution of potential further strikes on civilian infrastructure as winter deepens. While Russia has previously used drones to target Ukraine, defense officials are bracing for more sophisticated attacks this year. The unsettling fact remains that technology and tactics are evolving, but the end goal remains the same: power and control. This brings us to the question on everyone's mind: what could possibly be Russia's next move? This is not just a question for the strategists and politicians, but for every global citizen. For as we've seen, the ripple effect of this conflict goes beyond borders, affecting us all in one way or another. The struggle for power is not always straightforward. The Russian invasion of Ukraine has been met with significant pushback. Far from the rapid victory President Vladimir Putin anticipated, the Russian forces have found themselves in a protracted conflict that shows no sign of a swift resolution. Back in Russia, Putin's plan to swiftly seize Ukraine has faltered and faltered hard. Instead of marching victoriously through Kiev, the Russian invasion has been met with a fierce Ukrainian counteroffensive. This heroic pushback has reclaimed key territories that were once under Russian control, turning the tide of the conflict in Ukraine's favor. But this military setback isn't just a strategic failure for Putin. It's also leading to a significant shift in the political landscape back home. Criticism is mounting against Putin from both sides of Russia's political spectrum. While the left condemns the needless aggression and the right decries the strategic blunders, Putin finds himself increasingly isolated. His speeches, once met with applause, now echo in a room filled with skepticism and disillusionment. Drawing from the pages of history, Putin's current predicament is hauntingly reminiscent of past Russian failures. The defeat of the Soviet Union in Afghanistan and the subsequent collapse of the Soviet regime serves as a chilling cautionary tale. The Russo-Japanese War, which weakened the Romanov monarchy and paved the way for the Russian Revolution, is another historical echo that cannot be ignored. As the voices of dissent grow louder and his grip on power becomes increasingly tenuous, Putin's actions are becoming more desperate. The mobilization of additional troops, the saber rattling with nuclear weapons, all reflect a leader on the edge, a leader desperate to avoid the fate of the Soviets or the Romanovs. Whether his gamble pays off or leads to the dissolution of the Russian Empire for the third time, only time will tell. The ripple effects of this conflict have been felt far and wide, even reaching the shores of Israel. A nation known for its strategic neutrality, Israel has managed to balance a delicate relationship with both Russia and Ukraine throughout this ordeal. But as the tension heightens and the stakes rise, this equilibrium is beginning to wobble. The once cordial relationship between Israeli leadership and Russian President Vladimir Putin is experiencing a shift. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has touted his close relationship with Putin in the past, is now seemingly less friendly towards the Russian leader. This change of heart is more than a personal rift. It's a strategic reassessment of Israel's stance on the Ukraine war and a reflection of the changing geopolitical landscape. Israel's involvement in the conflict, while still subtle and non-combative, has begun to tilt towards the Ukrainian side. It has provided humanitarian aid to Ukraine, a move that already indicates a departure from its initial strict neutrality. But more notably, Israel has agreed to supply Ukraine with defense systems to test against Iranian weapons. This is not just a show of support to Ukraine, but also a strategic move for Israel to counter potential threats from Iran. Additionally, Israel has been sharing intelligence and technical information with Ukraine on countering Iranian drones. This cooperation between Israel and Ukraine could be seen as an extension of their shared concern about Iran's growing military capabilities. It's a case of, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and it further underscores the complexity of this conflict. Yet despite these shifts, Israel remains cautious. It has to balance its newfound support for Ukraine with its need to maintain coordination with Russia, especially given the ongoing issues in Syria. This delicate balancing act is a testament to the far-reaching implications of the Russia-Ukraine war and the global ripple effects that it has triggered. As the world watches, the question remains, what will be the final fallout of the Russia-Ukraine war?